Welcome, guys. We're going to be reviewing The Troop. Don't mind this. I crawled out of bed and walked into the woods to do this, and I'll be trying to turn this way, so that's not too much of a distraction. But here we go. Once a year, Scoutmaster Tim Riggs leads a troop of boys into the Canadian wilderness for a weekend camping trip, a tradition as comforting and reliable as a good ghost story around a roaring bonfire. But when an unexpected intruder stumbles upon their campsite, shockingly thin, disturbingly pale, and voraciously hungry, Tim and the boys are exposed to something far more frightening than any tale of terror, the human carrier of a bioengineered nightmare. A horror that spreads faster than fear, a harrowing struggle for survival with no escape from the elements, the infected, or one another. Alright, so this book was a good book. It wasn't what I was expecting, and expectation is the thief of joy, of course. So there's some aspects where I was a bit disappointed, but it was a good book nonetheless. It wasn't a thrilling pursuit. It wasn't non-stop terror. It was gory psychological horror. Yeah, some of the descriptions in this book are so vivid and so disgusting, you will be wanting to puke. And I couldn't read this book at night. I was scared to have nightmares of terrible things, terrible, gross images. I would definitely check the trigger warnings. I didn't think I was triggerable. Turns out I am indeed triggerable. If you want to know about that, I'll put a comment and comment underneath my comment of what triggered me. It's not very much of a spoiler at all, but I know some people like myself don't really want to know anything past the back of the page, and so I stay very vague with my reviews, what I like and what I don't. I think a lot of the feel of horror sometimes comes from a sense of like hopelessness and dread. Reading this book, you never feel like they're at mercy of the bad thing. The bad thing isn't all that threatening. It's not like a ghost where you can't run from it, you can't fight it, you can't kill it. It's like a very real obstacle that they're fighting. Still, dangers and death is always in the air, and it's a terrible situation. But it's not really terror or terrifying or scary. It's spooky and creepy and unsettling and uncomfortable and gross and all that. So that's kind of what bummed me out, and I think I ruined the book for myself a little bit, focusing too much on that. But doing this review, I'm realizing that I took a lot of things for granted. The characters in this book, shocking. Absolutely shocking. A very wide array of personalities, I'll say that. Very interesting, and I was very engaged. I felt like I was there on the island with them. A perfect painting was painted in my mind for how every character looked, every description. Like, I can't remember the last time I read a book where I felt like everything was so vivid in my head of the characters and the island and everything. There's definitely something to be said about that. I read it very quick. I read it in 2 days. The writing is really good. It's accessible, concise, and written very well. I remember there's multiple things I wrote down from inside the book. So Nick Cutter's definitely a good author. Little pieces of backstory are given to you through articles or court hearings or conversations. Just all these little pieces of backstory to fill you in more and more. And this goes all the way to the very end of the book. And that part is brilliant. It's like a story inside the story, I guess. Yeah. So I'm going to be ranking this book on 2 scales. One will be my subjective enjoyment of the book, and the other will be a more objective rating of the book. As far as my personal enjoyment, I'm gonna have to go with a 4 out of 10 because the trigger warning thing that I can't tell you about is in my head forever, and I will forever resent this book because of that. That's what I think of when I see this fucking cover. And then also, it's just not my type of book. But as far as my objective grade goes, this is a great book. I mean, I shouldn't have really enjoyed it, and I still did to an extent. I enjoyed a lot of it. It's written very well. It's a great story, great characters, and you should definitely try it out. If you haven't heard of Nick Cutter, there's a reason he's such a big author. Yeah, I love horror. For me, it's just a dime a dozen aren't written for a person like me. So if you have any thrilling horror recommendations for me, please let me know. That'd be greatly appreciated. And thanks for watching, and have a great day. I'm just now about to walk home, but I realize there's one other thing I should mention, and that's like the Lord of the Flies aspect. That's something I really enjoyed. When you have, for the most part, just kids on an island together, kids are fucking weird, and crazy shit's gonna happen. So that's another fun thing.